Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be with all you guys. I'm Jake
Actually, give me
Marmulstein.
1 second here, Jake. Let me
Sure.
do this before you start. I'm so sorry to interrupt. But before you start, let me go ahead and read the disclaimer. So, our disclaimer. So, everybody, welcome to the Geek Group. We have a great guest with us, and we're very excited to have him. Before that, let me read the disclaimer. So, topics, properties, and investments discussed are for educational purposes only. We do not sell securities. Each investor is responsible for their own decisions and must evaluate investments according to their investment risk tolerances. Opinions expressed are those of speakers and no one else. And so tonight we have with us Jake, and it's Jake Marmulstein, and he is the CEO of Groundbreaker, which is a Chicago-based SaaS platform that helps early stage real estate general partners get deals off the ground, communicate the value to investors, raise capital, and service investors across the whole lifespan of the investment. The platform, Groundbreaker, was launched in 2020 and has helped hundreds of GPs transact billions in commercial real estate and services with 19,000 limited partners on a daily basis. Okay, with that, thank you so much, Jake. I apologize for interrupting there. Without further ado, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction and for having me here with your group. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet everybody and share Groundbreaker. So I'll start with really my story and why I started the company. I'm from Marietta, Georgia. I went into the restaurant industry and family business, and then I went to Cornell to their hospitality program. And while I was there, I realized I didn't want to work in a restaurant. I started getting into real estate. I minored in real estate finance. And then after I graduated, I went off to work in a Brazilian government agency responsible for foreign investment. And it was here where I identified an off-market hotel that was very attractive in the city center downtown, where all these renovations and new projects were taking place. They were renovating the stadium, they were renovating the airport. There was going to be a ton of business with the World Cup and the Olympics coming to Rio de Janeiro. So I was super excited to be able to find this hotel. It needed $2 million in investment to be able to acquire it, renovate it, and put it on the market. And I was, pretty excited by the opportunity, even though I didn't have much experience. It didn't stop me. I went ahead, created a pitch deck, had an architect work through the asset. I had friends taking pictures, and then I started pitching investors in the United States. Needless to say, I was totally unprepared to be able to raise capital. The whole thing flopped. And later I went back into the United States. I started working at a real estate investment trust where I was underwriting distressed hotels. At that place, I was able to fill in my education gaps. But through the process, I realized that raising capital was a process that really nobody had figured out. There wasn't much of a structure. Information was stored in many different tools, and it was fragmented. Not to mention that you have to wear many different hats to be able to succeed in real estate investment. There's so many different talents that you have to be able to do it. So that inspired me to really create Groundbreaker. After I had left that real estate investment, I started Groundbreaker with a few colleagues, and we provided a system that gives real estate deal sponsors a place where they can run the process and structure everything having to do with their deal, the raise, the mechanics of getting investors across the finish line, and also being able to service those investors after the deal closes. So with Groundbreaker, we were able to give people a structure for their workflow so they can rationalize that process that's often very complex with many different moving parts to be able to get the investors into a deal and then take them through that life cycle so that they have a great experience that's also secure and compliant. But what we also did was we cleaned up the front office, making this otherwise complex process really simple for the investor, which created confidence that translates to the GP and their ability to close the deal, and also in the investor feeling like the GP has the tools necessary to succeed. As a result, the Groundbreaker platform has helped these deal sponsors be able to save 80 hours per deal. So they're saving all this time. And on average, the Groundbreaker customer does 3 to 4 deals a year. That's a 250% cost savings versus having to hire somebody in-house as a low-level assistant, or even outsourcing the work to a fund administrator. And you're getting so many more benefits by being able to use this technology. Just to highlight some of it, the platform allows your investors to log in anytime they want to be able to access deal information and account information. You can't really achieve that by having people. There's no more risk of wire fraud because everything's contained in a password protected portal. There's no risk of data from K1s or deals being leaked through email because, again, everything's safeguarded behind the portal. And what we do when we onboard people into our solution, and why Groundbreaker is different from other platforms and other softwares in the space, is that we have a concierge customer success team that's there with you every step of the way. So they hold your hand to import your data into the system, get your deal set up, help you to announce the raise to investors, help your investors get into the deal, close the deal, and then help your investors hook up their bank accounts so money just shows up in their account when it comes time to distribute funds to them. And this is our initial vision. As we got into the market, we realized that all these early stage sponsors are in the process of building their network. They're going to events, they're going to conferences, they're doing masterminds like these, the one that we're in today, because you guys all want to be able to build your network, get to know more people so that you can build and scale your business more effectively. Well, Groundbreaker thought that it would make sense to be able to provide that network to its customers as well. So we partnered with legal providers, companies that provide investor marketing materials, financing, and groups that line up property insurance and underwriting services. And that's just to name a few. So we act really more of a, not just a software vendor, but an extension of your team. And that starts with our concierge customer success team that's there holding your hand, being that point of contact to Groundbreaker and also to this ecosystem of services. So as we were saying earlier, we've really got a lot of traction at this point with 19,000 investors on the platform, 2 billion in assets, and our customers really love us. So I think this is some of the comments that we've had from customers. And they see us as an extension of their team. They like the software because it's easy to use. Our team has great customer service, and the functionality does it for them. And this is just the background on our team and some of the investors that are already backing Groundbreaker. So I have the real estate domain expertise. Our head of product, Ryan, he was an early employee in some fast-growing tech companies that are now worth billions of dollars, Warby Parker and BuzzFeed. And our head of sales, Jeff, is our integrator at Groundbreaker. He's the one who has been building and scaling our customer success team and now over to our sales team. And Stefan is just a really scrappy marketing expert who has a lot of experience working with software as a service companies. On the real estate side and investor side, we've been lucky to be able to partner with the National Association of Realtors Venture Arm, a family office out of Walton Street Capital, and an angel network in Chicago Booth. So that's the background on the company, a little bit about us, what we do. Happy to take questions. And then I also had planned on going into our software and showing you guys around the solution.
First question is, how many LPs are involved with this Groundbreaker platform?
How many LPs are involved?
Yes, how many investors are in the network already?
19,000 investors on the Groundbreaker platform.
Oh wow, okay.
And then Jake, give us some background. Like, do those 19,000, does this work like if I'm a sponsor on a deal and I'm raising for my deal, do I bring all my investors in and they get access to that deal, right? Is it once they're in the system, do they get to see other deals too from other sponsors, or how's that kind of coordinate inside?
So a lot of the sponsors have different opinions on this, and so we haven't done anything at all to change the way that the core platform works. It's a privately labeled software that each real estate GP uses on their own accord, and they add their investors in with complete certainty that there will be no access to those investors unless it's something that they specifically consent to doing. So at this point, we haven't cross-pollinated in any way to respect our customers and the confidentiality and relationship they have with their investors. But as we continue speaking with our customers and learning about their needs, there's a lot of interest with that happening. But there are certain things, nuances to it that need to be, made to be able to protect those relationships and the value of those relationships.
All right. So just to clarify, you're not suggesting that the 19,000 investors, LP investors, are available to a syndicator that comes in. That's just an established track record of look how many LP investors have been using this with their individual sponsors.
Yep.
Is that where you were headed with that, Mark? I think that might be.
Yes, that's
where our brains. That's where our brains always go.
I wanted to see if I could use this to get some investors. What's the fee to use this platform? Is it a monthly? Is it a one-time? What is it?
Yeah, so Groundbreaker is $150 a month. We might be working up something special with your group here, yet to be determined, but it's $150 a month to use. We sell it on annual contract, but you can certainly pay us monthly for it.
Okay. One other question, Jake. What year you graduated from Cornell?
2012.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm class of 93, so way before you.
I was speaking with alumni when I was getting into the school that really helped me. The alumni of Cornell are amazing. So that's funny. What school were you in?
Arts and Sciences.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were one of the smarter ones. That's the school with the lowest acceptance rate.
I mean, at the time, there was a lot of us. I don't know about now.
Yeah, I went for the hotel school for a reason, my friend.
But that's the best school. I like it.
So do you guys want to see the platform?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go over to our demo instance here. I also included a link to the investor portal as well. So you guys can check it out on your own time. Need to move this over a little bit. Yeah. Might have to squeeze you in, Pedro. Squeezing you into the side there.
I'm good.
All right. So let's see. So this is just to show you guys how the portal will look. If you're going to this link, it would come off of your main website. You could link to it through email on your homepage, on any page of your site. The investor would be going into here, and we can brand it, privately brand it for your company. So your logo would sit up here. You'd be able to have the control over the colors, this image here that we have. of the beautiful Chicago River. And then you could, put your confidentiality or disclaimer statements inside this. And then your investors could request access by giving you their name, email, phone number, creating a password for themselves that's secure, and then they can log into the system. And so I'm going to go in with my, here we go. See. So when I log into this portal, this is going to tell me at a high level if I've invested in some deals, what I need to do next to be able to complete my investment, which comes in at the top. And I'll also see any deals that are available to me. So as a sponsor, you would use the other side of the software, which is here in this tab, where you really have a ton of tools to be able to create your deals, add your investors in, associate your deals with different investment entities or LLCs. Your contacts or your investors, they're going to have accounts with their own LLCs, or they could be just investing individually. And you'll put your deals out to the investors. So through here, you can actually create a pretty nice looking offering on the front end of this website by just going into the data room and filling it out with all the information, you would with a typical OM that you're making. So if you're doing this in PowerPoint and you're having to format a bunch of different stuff, you can still attach that as a PDF to here, but you can also just fill it out in Groundbreaker, add in whatever documents you need, add the photos, location on the map. You can do a pitch video and record that pitch and then have your investor it, or you can run a webinar, record that, post that in here, and then you can see it as a recap. And then you have like the ability to create different sections and add information into that. So with my raise for Groundbreaker, I've actually included all this information in our portal, and it looks really professional, really nice. Investors love it. It impresses them that you have all the information all in the same place. And then on the front end, this is what it would look like when they log in. They'd see this teaser, and then they'd be able to click view details to be able to see the deal. So it's going to take all that information I put in the back end. It's going to format it and break it into the different sections. And then the investors can review and download your documents, watch your videos. And when they're ready to invest, they click view subscription, and they can go down the path towards putting the investment amount down, answering the investor verification accreditation questions, and then they'll be able to sign the documents that you share with them. And then you countersign the documents, and they can go and fund the transaction. So we offer the ability to do ACH through Groundbreaker, which is pretty amazing. You'll watch the money get sent through ACH, and in a matter of days, it'll land in your account. That saves on the wire fees too. So investors are typically paying like $25 or $35 per wire. You can save them that money. And so you'll be able to take even maybe, you can take smaller investment amounts without it being such a big deal. And that's all covered in the cost of the platform. Outside of the deal and the fundraising part that we have here, there's other parts of it, but I'll just stop for a second. Do you guys have any questions at all on some of the fundraising, the deal presentation, and marketing pieces?
Yes. So you said it's you can do individual investments in it too. So what's the minimum investment people do?
So you're asking me, how do you how can you set the investment criteria for the investors to come into the deal?
Correct. And the minimum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so back here inside of in the deal, when you fill out all the information, this wizard just walks you through everything that you need. So you'll be able to put in the ranges on the minimums
Okay.
and maximums of the commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to sign it from your team, whether you're accepting electronic payments, wire instructions, you can add those in, and then whatever online subscription documents you need to tag and have them sign, so such as your PPM. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because I wanted to know what kind of minimum you set for each deal, or it's a individual project minimum.
I mean, it's up to you what you want to set. Yeah,
Okay.
so if say you're raising, just think of it this way. I mean, maybe you're going to do, maybe your first deal would be like a small 8-unit multifamily deal.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, I don't know what market are you in?
Well, we do in Texas too.
Okay, so I don't know what the price would be for something like that, but say it's like
Say
say it's
5 million.
like 5 million transactions. So you're going to
Mhm.
raise 1 million equity and get 80% loan to value. So if you're doing a $1 million raise, the average investor that you're getting is probably investing with maybe like a 25 or 50K equity check on the
Mhm.
low end, since this is going to be your first deal. So you need 20 to 40 investors to be able to fund that, if your average equity is going to be anywhere between 25 and 50. So you
Okay.
would set the minimum. I would probably if I were you, I'd probably set the minimum at 50. So you only need 20 investors.
Right. Gotcha.
And then you can always update it here to be able to let somebody in if they want a lower.
Okay. Gotcha. That answers my question.
Sure.
And I'm going to start to ask, are you ready for details at this point? Like for example, what you just mentioned, a lot of times we say, oh, we want a minimum of 50. And then when somebody calls us up and goes, I got 25, us, we're like, oh yeah, send your 25, right? So, and you said you could update it. Do you go in and update it for the whole property, or are you able to sort of make exceptions as people send money in? How does that kind of flexibility work?
You have the flexibility to be able to assign an amount to a specific investor. So if I got out of this and I go to like the prospects table, and I can do it where I go right in the entity and I say add investment, and then I can put in the amount specific for that person. And then all they have to do is log in and complete the investment.
That seems like a very nice feature. So even when I'm taking verbal commitments, I can run through my investors and say, what do you think what's your interest in the deal? And they say 50,000, and I can put in 50,000, and now it pops up. They just sort of complete the transaction at that amount.
Right. Exactly. You can just assign the amounts out of here, and then they can go through the process on their own. And then you're able to look at them in this prospect table and see, you can see the investor going through that process. Got a lot of complete investments here. Yeah.
Does the platform have some type of notification system? So it's like does it send like automatic emails to the investors to, let's say, remind them to invest or anything like of that nature?
We do have a email notification system in the software. So it can do emails when a deal is out. It can do emails when they've made an investment, when they've signed. We have reminder emails as well. And then we have emails that go out to you and your staff too when certain things take place. And you can control those emails. It's nicely built out the way it is with the notification section. So there's like a whole bunch of notifications. And this is kind of like the way that you'd be able to write them. We have, our own kind of structure and whatnot, but you could make this say whatever it is that you want in these boxes.
Yeah, and I might expand Mark's question. Maybe what my brain is thinking is, how much of the funnel is part of your system? And I might imagine, I might just clarify. So, we have a database of 850 potential investors that we've lovingly built over the last 5 years, one name at a time, right? But I imagine that, that's in our active campaign account right now. I'm imagining I'm sending out my emails to that group going, if you're interested, here's the investment, it's 18%, there's a preferred of 8, all the details in that email, and then I'm going, click here if you're interested, and I'm probably funneling that into a smaller group. And then I'm probably at some point entering in those investors into the portal slash having them go directly. But I'm not using your system as that big part of the funnel. I'm using it toward the bottom of the funnel. Does that kind of sound right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I mean, the goal with this is to provide a system where you can run the process with your investors and make it easy for them, not necessarily do lead nurturing like what you would do with an active campaign. But we don't have any kind of direct integration with active campaign yet, but that's on our roadmap to be able to do one, because a lot of people do that. They use these systems to warm up their leads, and then once they get them into the system, most of the time investors are ready to invest, and it's just coming through your list and being able to tag people and then watch them go. So like I like the tagging functions that we have in here, because you could label certain people in your database and you could see historically how much they've invested with you. And you can use that as a means of, saving different groups of people, having different tags. So you're managing this database of investors that are active and actually interested in investing. Whereas an active campaign, maybe that's more people who you don't really know yet, who haven't verbally committed or anything. They need to see the deal first. And then once they get in here, it's all about closing them.
Just on that note, though, if I come up with a list of my 50 investors that have verbally said, yeah, I'm moving to the next stage, am I able to maybe import those in a batch file and send out a email to them going, here's your login information for Groundbreaker? Or kind of how does that function work potentially?
Yeah, so that would be part of our service team who would help you guys to do that. And then every investor would get an invitation. They'd get an invitation email that welcomes them into the portal and lets them set their own password, and then they'd be able to log in. You can do it on an individual basis by just adding contacts here, or if you need to add people as a batch, you would just contact our team, which is like, there's like a little chat bubble that's usually here, and you can just open it up and share the file with them.
Nice. And they just maybe batch it from the back end or something?
Yep.
Ooh. Jake, how does the system handle, these days we're doing a lot of A/B shares.
Yeah, so we don't have any specific feature that handles that under like a single deal. The way that you guys would do it would be you create 2 different deals. One is the A, one is the B, and then you have permissions and viewing permissions on those different shares that you can share the deal with a certain group, and another group could be in here and they wouldn't see it unless you shared it.
Okay. Well, I think for us, it's always the ABs are, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm asking this wrong potentially too. For us, we'll do an AB where everybody gets to see both. And for us, we like to do, one is a short-term sort of a cash flow kind of investment at a lower rate. And the other is a long-term sort of buy and hold kind of, we're going to pay you a bigger return, but you got to wait till the very end to get it on the back end, right? And maybe not even take perhaps during the time of the deal. And so would they be able to see both shares and choose? And what we'll have investors do is go, I'm here for cash flow. Others are like, I don't want the cash flow because I'm trying to hide it from taxes for the moment, right? Until it's done. And so sometimes they'll buy, half and half if they want both, or they'll buy all of one or all of the other. And with that system, it would just be modified to manage that kind of idea.
Yeah, you could run it you could run the two different share classes under two separate offerings, if you will, and they'll just have, one will have the A subdocs, one will have the B subdocs, and then you'll process the investments. And they're going to have different, they're also going to have different distributions as well. So it makes a lot of sense actually to run them separately.
Got it. Yeah, because there's so many differences about how when you go to pay and do the distribution. So if you have them separately, you can just run it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you could do, in the CRM, you could just add these people in and then save them as a group and call them the A and the B. Or you could tag them. Like I could just create a tag for each investor that's an A.
A lot of times we'll use, sorry guys, if you have questions, jump in ahead of me here. Otherwise, me, I'll start asking away if you let me. So don't feel free to raise a hand or just butt in. A lot of times when we're raising for a deal, we'll do a tranche for private equity raisers. So we'll say, 25% of the GP is reserved for private equity raisers. We want people to go out, find their own investors, put that money in the deal, and we want to then give those people, I call them raisers, and we want to give them a job in the GP, right? We're probably going to have them as some part of investor relations. And this is all part of what they're in for. They want to learn more about the deal. They want to be in on the calls, right? So they become part of the GP through that tranche. Mm-hmm. How do you manage that kind of situation given the platform controls?
Yeah, so how do you do it? How do you do it today?
So we did, my experience with raises, number one, yeah, we've done I think 4 different raises, maybe 5. Okay, so not too many, but we've done them all manually, with a spreadsheet. And so we'll start to tag those investors in the spreadsheet as, oh, Charmaine brought us 5 people. Those are her investors, right? And so they're coming in. So that, amount of raise would go toward the bucket of the raise, and that percent, if it's $1 million raise and Charmaine brought in $500,000, and she gets half of the 25%, right? So 50% of the 25% of the GP, which is some percent of the whole deal, right? And so then when we go through and talk about distributions, we're manually breaking that up, right? If they, not all the time will they get a piece of the asset management fee. That's not always a part of that. Sometimes they will. It kind of depends on how we see the work they're doing. We're trying to maintain that requirement that they're, if they're on the GP team, they're doing work for the property, right? So we're trying to make sure that's in place. And so therefore, it's sometimes the asset management fee won't be a part of that. Sometimes just the ACT fee, sometimes a piece of the exit fee, different things. But we're managing it through spreadsheets right now, which is, as you can imagine, from the work you've done, difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way that you would do it in Groundbreaker today, you would be able to use tagging in the CRM to be able to attribute the investors to the other person, and then you would have the whole capitalization table of all the investors and their investment amounts in the investment entity inside of the system, so it's easy to see how much each one has invested and how much ownership they have. So you can have an idea of the sum total there. But we realized that in order for people to be able to team up on deals together, they really need to have their own portals and to be able to have a way of having their investors get into the deals and kind of keep things organized separately. Because there's a lot of, as much as you guys want to be working together, you want to be able to have control over who your investors are, and they want to have control over who their investors are. So we're actually working on a new feature this year that is going to address that specific pain point that you're describing, where it can be organized and you can actually invite Charmaine to work with you on a deal, and she'll get her own portal and access to all of your deal information in the portal that she controls, where she can add her own investors and then control the relationship and have her stake in that carve out that you're providing to her in that allocation.
Great, that would be very cool. Do you call that a co-sponsor, or is a co-sponsor a different feature in your platform?
No, we would call that that's like a pretty large feature that we'll be working on that'll encompass co-sponsorship essentially. But you can still do co-sponsorship. You can still do a co-sponsorship in Groundbreaker without that feature, but it will, it's more of like the way we do it now is like there's limitations to it. So there's still some work that you guys would have to do to be able to understand which part is Charmaine's and which part is yours on a percentage basis. But with this new feature that we're building, it'll accomplish all of those needs that you would have. And I'd love to work on it with you. Yeah.
Well, I'm very interested in, you teased the maybe we have a lower rate for the Geek group members, for the Geeks, and so that's very interesting to me. And given the amount of work I've done, and I've looked at different platforms before, I don't know that I've ever been able to decide on one. And I talked to some of my other friends too, that conversation we were having where I texted them and asked them a few questions that we can talk about later. But I love the idea that once you have the portal, it frees you up so much more to focus on who's in on investing. Can I ask them the right questions, and see, are they really interested? Are they really coming on this deal? It takes a lot of that. We've done so much of that legwork, whether it be building spreadsheets or all those things. Is just, your measurement of time. You're talking about 100 hours dropped to 20. You're cutting your time. It's 20% of what you would have spent otherwise. That sounds about right. That sounds, the pain I've experienced raising money has been half of it in terms of raising the money, and maybe a larger part in the frustration of all the background work around it, which is what it seems like you're simplifying here. So
yeah, let me I can go over some of the things that you guys might not realize how much time it takes to do some of these things. So we actually did some internal surveys with customers on some of these tasks and how long they take them. So starting with the offering materials. You have to create and format your investment summaries to be able to gauge investor interest. You have to create your PPM and your OM, and you have to then send the material to the investors. All that stuff takes a bunch of time. Groundbreaker cuts down on the time that it takes to do that by providing you guys with a structured data room. It has templates inside of it, so you can just fill out the information and then you publish it. And the beauty of that is it's a live document. So it's on the portal, and if you need to make updates, you can make the updates. If you had to do it the old-fashioned way, you'd have to add a PDF onto an email, or you'd have to send another email, and the versions are constantly changing. So people are getting different information at different times. With the subscription process, you have to send the subscription materials to the investors, whether it's a DocuSign link or you're sending stuff through a Drive link. That takes time, and you're having to send it out to everybody. And then they have to go through that process of completing it. The beauty of Groundbreaker is, again, it's a place where they can go and get that subscription agreement. And then when they want to complete the subscription, they're doing it online. It's just pretty easy. And you can see in our software how much of the process they've completed and when they've completed it. A lot of people take, they used to take checks. I don't know if we do that anymore, but wires, making deposits, sending updates as the deal moves to closing, updating all your records as investors fund the deal. You're punching the data into Excel, and then updating your investors once the deal closes. Because it's all in this portal, you can skip a lot of that stuff. So you're not having to update an Excel workbook that says how much each investor has. It just updates it in Groundbreaker. And it assigns them the ownership percentage, and then that updated funding amount on their side. And once you're ready to close out the deal, you just move the deal to closed, and that can trigger an automated notification to the investors. So those are a couple examples in the fundraising process. There's a ton more in terms of distributions, a bunch more in terms of ongoing communications and reporting. Once you have a deal and you're operating it, investors tend to ask questions and wonder when their next distribution is, or what you paid them, or where's their K1. And you just cut down on a ton of those email questions or phone calls that are going back and forth. When you talk to your investors, you can make it about the performance of the deal and what's going on at the property level, or you can make it about the next deal you're doing, as opposed to some of these administrative things that'll just drive you crazy and suck out all your time.
Well, so I guess maybe a little bit off task, but one day we received 4 different $50,000 wires. We couldn't figure out who they were from. We're literally calling our investors going, did you send us $50,000? Imagine how embarrassed we were, right? It was terrible. We're literally calling our investors going, did you send $50,000? I was like, oh my gosh, this is not very professional, you guys. So yeah, that would be nice to know. If you just knew who it's from and it comes through their login, then I imagine that's settled.
No, it's even better. Actually, the bank detail will say the name of the investor in your bank account when it's an ACH, which I love. Because now I'm using Groundbreaker for my raise, so I'm seeing the money come in, and I see, I see who it's from, and I love that. Yeah.
I haven't heard you mention this, so I don't know. Like you mentioned, we're doing a deal in Texas, but my investors are in 20 different states, and now I'm required to file in a certain amount of time after closing the SEC update in each of those states. Any chance it helps me with that issue? Because it's like 2 weeks or something. It's a very tight requirement to send those out, and there's potential penalties if you don't meet it. How about that? Any chance you got that integrated?
Actually, we don't, but that's something we could work on together. I'd love to, figure that
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does your attorney usually do it?
Yes, they usually do it, but it's a nightmare. It's a back and forth of information, and even if it could batch the information to the attorney, might be a solution that can make it that can ease the pain.
I see where the visionary is in you. Yeah.
Ah. Well, I like systems like this. This is genius. This is using technology to get us down the road. So I like that a lot. When you're dealing, are you still doing the old fashioned? I'm going to my SEC attorney in the beginning and getting my PPM and all that's done sort of in the front, and then it's uploaded into the system.
Yeah, we as we think about the problems and the solutions here. One of our clients is a boutique law firm actually, and they use us to be able to manage some fund administration stuff for their client, who's a really big real estate private equity firm. And we talked to them about what if we were to automate and streamline the templates and do the PPMs. And I talked to a lot of attorneys and they just don't want to do that because it's such a high risk to be able to come out with documents that don't properly protect your investors and don't protect you. So we still send people to attorneys. We have preferred vendors who handle that and offer discounted prices through Groundbreaker. So that still is, the old fashioned way, I guess.
I hear you, but even if an SEC attorney had their own login and could cut and paste their Google Doc into the field, so to speak, and now it's in the system, could be a temporary solution. Yeah. Anyway, but I like all that. So how are we doing on time? It's 6:15. We got 15 minutes left. How are you guys doing with questions?
I get a lot of functionality questions from this group.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I apologize for that.
No, it's great. It's good ideas. I want to know what the challenges are that you guys are facing, and it's all about problem solving.
I'm curious about, some of us are newer on this group and we don't have a deal all the time, right? I'm curious about the no, maybe I'm not about that. And I want to ask my members what they think of the service so far, and if this is something that fits into their current plans. Like go around the room, and say, Marc, Pedro, Cabrin, and Darnell and Charmaine, would this be something that fits into your plans that you would be like, yeah, I really need that right now? Or would you say more, I need this, but I'm not going to do anything till I get a deal? Then I need it. What's kind of your feedback on that? Just we'll do an informal feedback on that.
Well, I think it's something that I'll definitely need in the future. I don't think I need it right now. I'm still trying to develop and build my investor base right now. And so since I don't have a deal that's already set, 'cause I see this as more as an investor relations platform. And since I don't have the deal or the investors in place right now, I don't think I can use it right now, but it seems like something that I would definitely use in the future.
I would say the same thing as Marc. Not something I need right now, but definitely something I'd be interested in the future. I was particularly impressed with what he mentioned about the distributions, because before I was going to ask that question, but before I could, you answered it. But yeah, definitely something I want to use in the future.
I'm number 3. This software seems great. It's just that I don't have I'm still building the investor and relations and getting the deal going. But something that Max brought up, when it comes to like documents that have to be sent to the SEC, wouldn't that be kind of standardized since it is the federal government? Or is it? I mean, I know it's just. I mean, like the locations change and maybe, and of course the names, but isn't the document itself for the SEC kind of like standardized? I'm just curious.
Well, Pedro, the ones I'm talking about are state by state. So that's actually a separate form per state, depending on
Okay.
where your investors are. So, the way I understand it, what we experienced was if you have investors from 20 different states, you're now filing this form within 14 days, closing the deal in those 20 different states. And it's a standard form for each state, but each state's form varies slightly, and it's kind of a whole rigmarole. Your attorney knows all the 50 states and all the places to mail them, so that theoretically they're handling it. They want from you a list of all the investors that are in all the states, and now they're going from there, right? But it's just one more thing. Yeah, when you think of it in isolation, it doesn't seem that big a deal. It's just this sort of onslaught of paperwork that like Jake is mentioning, the requirements of skills for these deals are so varied. You need on your team the action person doing the boots on the ground, like Mark is talking about, doing walkthroughs and checks, and that's a completely different personality than the one doing the underwriting, than the one calling the investors and saying, well, how much you're going to send. That's a people person where you got to have, it's a, and hence why you see a 5-person team being a successful syndication team. You literally need the 5 positions filled out. We use that traction book again, where they're talking about a visionary and integrator and the 3 across the bottom. You're trying to fill that out on your team just to cover all those bases, so that at least you can go to the manager of finance, so to speak, which is that kind of paperwork spreadsheet person to manage all that, right? And so that just becomes the challenge of business. It's a great business and there's huge potential, but you're working, you're filling those 5 spots. If there's only 3 of you on the team, you're doing all the work of the 5 people, whether you like it or not. So I guess that's where I'm headed back to is can you cover all those positions with the software, let the automation handle all that. That now, frees everybody up to be normal people again.
Okay, got it.
Well, for me, this is work smart, Jake, and not too hard. So yes, you're definitely gonna be in on my portal for as a go-to tools when I need you.
All right, that's awesome. Last comments. We can go to the rate and wrap. We do a rate and wrap part of the meeting.
I did want
Go ahead,
to chime
Cabrin.
in real quick, Max. Yeah, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Go ahead.
Kind of had a comment, comment. I got a couple of different things. One, I think it's awesome, and we are definitely looking at Groundbreaker to start utilizing it. And our company we're kind of in the same place where we don't have a deal per se that we're raising for, so it's kind of timing that right, but actually being prepared for when that time does come. But yeah, I really like Groundbreaker. And to my understanding, there isn't any other fees. Like if you pay the annual contract, there's no additional fees for like if you're uploading different deals and things like that. Is that correct, Jake?
Yeah, we're not charging you by deal, or you don't charge for any of the transactions. The ACH transfers are included.
Yeah, and
So it's
I
just
really like
one
that.
monthly. It's just 1 monthly fee or annual fee.
Yeah, you can pay. There's a discount if you if you pay upfront annually, and then you can also pay month to month. But after you guys like build, when you do your first deal, maybe you're going to be, it's going to be a little bit of a leap of faith because it's your first deal, right? But after you get that first deal done, then you're going to have done it and you know what it takes, and you can build the cost of the software into the deal.
Yeah, as syndicators, we live on fees. So you'll have an act fee and you'll have a legal fee. Legal will cover the PPM and other things, and you're probably rolling some of these extra fees into the legal, right? I mean, your legal, if it's Kim or one of the other vendors that Jake is talking about, maybe you're paying 10, 12, 15 grand, and you're putting into your underwriting 20 grand for legal fees. It's just the way it's got to be. Everything's got to be paid for at some point, right? So we're building all that into the underwriting, and if the deal works, it's all covered. So the systems are just required to make it work. And doing them manually, if you're partners and it's your first deal, all of you are willing to sit around and do it manually, because it's, it's that old artist thing of you're working for free because you're building your resume, right? But at some point, you got to emerge out of that thinking and just start to build those fees in and find a deal that works to cover all that.
Thank you.
All right, you guys.
Jake, I had one.
Go ahead,
I
Cabrin.
had one more question. I was curious for like I do kind of syndications on single families in a way where we don't set it up where they get any equity. It's usually more of a private loan type of situation, but it's usually smaller amounts. We may raise 50,000, 20,000, or something like that. Is that something that would be worth using, or will we be able to do something like that, or is it more for the syndication model for multifamily, or kind of what would be your feedback if that's something I could or should do?
How many investors do you market those deals to?
That's a pretty small base right now. We probably have 10 or 20 investors that we bring these deals to, and like it'd be 5,000 here, 10,000 there, going to smaller deals. So I didn't know if that's something that would if it would even be worth utilizing the platform for something that's that small, or just kind of what your feedback would be.
Well, one of our early customers when we started the company was a hard money lender, and what he would do was he would fractionalize his loans. He would do a loan to a borrower, and he would say, okay, I can raise you 100 grand for that fix and flip deal that you're doing. And he would put it up on the Groundbreaker platform on his instance, and he would have his investors come in and fund pieces of that loan. And then he would make the origination, he would make the spread because he would give the borrower a rate, and then he would make a rate on top of that. And then he would make money on the servicing of the loan. So I definitely think that's an option for you, because it's helping you save time getting these investors into the deal, pushing their commitments and closing it.
All right, you guys.
For something, just one more. For something similar like
Charmaine.
that, if you do not have your own investor coming in, can you put it out there for investor in your portal to come in on the deal if you put the deal out there?
Not at this point, because we don't provide any type of investor marketing services ourselves, but stay tuned. We can be looking at those things through the partnerships that we're working on.
I think Charnel,
Okay,
you're still building your active campaign list that you're sending it out to first, and paring those down into who's interested to some sort of manageable group, and then moving them into the portal. Is my 2 cents. Okay, you guys, we're running very low on time. We have 3 minutes left. Unmute, go over to the L10 doc and type your rating. And remember, we're not rating the speaker, we're rating the meeting. And if you're a 7 or below, you got to tell us why. And Mark, my integrator, goes, if you're not a 10, then tell us why. So I guess we've started to change our rating rules. So go to the L10 and unmute right now, and let's roll down through them. Darnell, you've already got yours in there. What's your rating?
10.
Nice, thanks, sir. I'm a 10. Pedro?
10.
All right. Charmaine, just say it.
I'm just saying 9 because I need to know more.
Nice, okay. Fair
Oh,
enough.
thank you.
All right, who we missing? Cabrin and Darnell.
I give it a 10. I can't access the L10 right now, but I give it a 10.
Okay.
For sure.
No problem, Cabrin. We know how it works. Go ahead, Darnell.
Yeah, I said 10.
Nice. Thank you, guys. Well, Jake, thank you so much. We
Hey,
totally
I didn't say
appreciate
it.
your time.
10.
Oh, Mark, I'm sorry. Nice. Thank you, sir. Good. You got to be ready to interrupt, and I appreciate you doing that because I trying to fly here. So thank you so much. Okay, you guys. Thank you so much, Jake. And
Thanks,
let's
Jake.
you and me keep talking.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. And thank you, guys. We'll go ahead and email this out to the members that aren't here tonight, and hopefully they get some benefit too from this. So thank you so much, you guys. Have a great weekend.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you all. Thank you for the
Right, see
opportunity.
everybody.
Great to meet
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
Nice, Pedro. Thank you. Thank you, guys.